Hello and welcome to Mr. Patrick's Corner. Today I'm going to talk about a email that I received from a young man in Australia. And in this email, he doesn't understand why Americans haven't been able to stop gun violence and mass shootings. Well, he's a young man and he doesn't quite understand my country. It's like what gets me is I'm an American, and if I want to go fly fishing in Australia, I'll be sure to have a couple of guys watching my back because you got 1.5 million saltwater crocodiles who kind of like to eat people. It's the same basic. It's the basic problem we have with the mass shooters. There's not very many of them, and then they hype them up. Uh, the first one that I can remember really, really well was the Austin Clock Tower shooter. This was in 1971, uh, before you had all these fancy SWAT guys and all the other stuff. And he had he was a Marine. He had a tumor. He killed his mother and his wife with a knife, a K-bar to be precise, and he had an M1 carbine, and in his day was a military rifle. Um, the United States surplus sailed 350,000 of them to the NRA for sale on the civilian market. And he had a couple of pistols and some other stuff. So he takes his ammunition and his hoard of rifles, and he goes up to the clock tower in Austin. He looks like he works there, so nobody said anything. He took the elevator to the top of the clock tower, set up his sniper post, and proceeded to kill 19 people, most of them women. And how was he stopped? He was stopped by the fact that the people of Texas believe in arming themselves. They back then every pickup truck rancher had his rifle in a gun rack. So when this guy started shooting, the people of Texas got together and started covering fire. 3 officers went up with a civilian. The civilian was Mr. Crump, and he had just gotten out of the Air Force. He'd served 20 years then. So when they're going up, uh, Mr. Trump asked the guys for a shotgun, and when he gives it to them, well, you better deputize me too because I want to make sure that I'm legal to shoot this guy. So the police go one way, Trump goes the other, and the firefight is up there, and they proceed to kill the shooter. And it affected Mr. Crump quite a bit. You know, taking a human life takes a great deal out of you. It's not like in the movies where it's easy. You can ratify it in your head that you did the right thing. But a couple months later, Mr. Crump is awarded a medal for his valor, and the people of Austin celebrate him. But he didn't feel right. He got in his car, took off to Las Vegas, became a slot mechanic. Never talked about it very much at all. The next one is Columbine, and Roger Moore did a very excellent, uh, excellent movie about Columbine. But the problem with all of those is the fact that it always takes two sides to do stuff like this. And these kids had been bullied and teased, and suddenly they decided to take off. Now, believe it or not, that was the same reason for a Russian shooter about 4 years ago. He killed 19 of his classmates in Russia. Now, to get a long gun, you can't get a handgun in Russia, it's against the law. but you can get a long gun. You have to take a test. You have to show that you know how to handle the weapon. You have to go through a psychological background, and still he managed to get himself a semi-automatic shotgun, and he proceeded to kill 19 of the people there. Nobody else was carrying arms. You can go to the peace camp in Sweden. This far right crazy. Oh, by the way, they don't execute you in Sweden, so you can kill a lot of people, get away with it, because basically they'll put you in a nice place where you can do a little work, and you get to watch TV, and you get to talk to doctors about why you did it. Well, he knew why he was doing it, because he wanted to show he didn't like foreigners. He didn't like immigrants. So he thought there'd be an uprising. So he proceeded to shoot everybody on the island. I think he killed over 50 people. And there was nobody there was armed. It's like putting a mountain lion in with a bunch of sheep. The mountain lion just keeps killing, because there's no way to stop him. He gets into the killing lust, and this was what happened with this guy. And now we have even more of these fellas, but it's like Carl Rittenhouse in Kenosha, Wisconsin. He was just helping people guard a auto lot, and next thing he knows, he's attacked by a bunch of crazy people, and they're trying to hurt him and kill him. He goes to trial, and he's declared innocent. The guy that he shot in the arm is now suing him. I love that. He's being sued by the guy that tried to kill him. Why? Because in the United States, you can go and get a civil trial. Well, my question is why he was not arrested? Because he was illegally carrying a handgun, and he should have been arrested, put on trial. But no, they needed his testimony in the Rittenhouse trial, so he got immunity, so he can testify. And now he turns around and sues Carl Rittenhouse. Anybody sitting on that jury should take a good look at this guy and say, you know what, you got off lucky. And I believe that, it's my own personal opinion. I think he should, I tell him I give him $1 and that's it. Tough shit. But let's get back to mass shootings and why we have them. Now, the young man in Australia, they have a better educational system than we do. They have a trade school system that's better than ours. Their universities are on a par with ours or greater. They don't cost a lot to go. And you have immigrants to Australia, but you also have the ability, you have problems in Australia, like the crazy guy who was a fanatical Arab terrorist, and your special forces service are keeping an eye on this guy. He goes into a store, takes a knife from the store. They're not under lock and key because people want to buy knives so that they can do their cooking. He takes this knife, starts killing people. He killed, 19 people? And then the special guys come in, and the next, I think it was 3 days later, women are standing in front of the store demanding that they ban all knives in Australia. You cannot ban common sense. You cannot ban crazy people because crazy people don't follow the law. That's the problem. Just like in Texas again. I love the state of Texas. They had, this airman had a spousal abuse. He served 6 months in the military jail, but they didn't put it on his record. So when he went out and bought his AR-15, there didn't show anything because the guys felt sorry for him. They didn't follow the law and they let him slide. And the only reason those people in the church survived at all was because the neighbor got his AR-15 and let him have it. Once these guys, they're like basically bullies. As soon as they get shot at, they change their minds. The El Paso shooter, that's another good one. El Paso, Texas. He goes into a Walmart because it's strictly stated no firearms allowed. But they don't have metal detectors there. They don't have guards with guns. There's no way to make the point. So he goes in there, shoots up the place, comes out. They're going to give him and all these people out in El Paso parking lot. This is the state that's famous for taking out outlaws and hanging them. Oh, we're going to have to give him a trial. What is there to try? The guy killed people, knew what he was doing was wrong, and we're going to pat him on the head and keep him alive for 4 or 5 years, and then we're going to maybe give him a lethal injection. I think they're trying to change that now with using a rifle. In Utah, they used to shoot a guy in the heart. They have 3 guys, marksmen, and one guy would have the hot round, the other guys would have the blanks, so they wouldn't know who killed the guy. All of these things happen because society has said that we need to give up our guns and we will be more safe. I do not believe that. I'll give you some counter arguments on that. There was a lady up in Tehachapi, California. If you ever come to California, that's the place you got to go. They got the railroad trains there go around this curlicue to get up the mountain. It's like something like in a Ferris in a ride. You go around and around and around, and this lady raised alpacas and she had a kennel. This crazy guy was in her house. He tells them to get out or I'll shoot. The guy keeps coming. She fires a warning shot. He keeps coming. She fires another warning shot. And the third shot, she shoots him in the chest, and that's the end of him. Now, you might think that's terrible. Well, think about the guy, the bodega guy who works in a bodega. That's a little store in New York City, in Harlem. And this woman and her child come in, and they want to buy chips. So she gives him her EBT card. He runs the card and won't allow them to buy chips. And he runs it again, says, "Sorry, ma'am, I can't give you the chips because, the machine won't let me do that, and I work here. I'm not an owner of the deal. Otherwise, I'd give you the chips, but I can't." So she cusses the guy out, and then she says she's going to get her boyfriend, and he's going to mess you up. So the boyfriend comes in. He gets behind the partition for the bodega. The old man, he's almost 62. He's forced into a corner. He has a knife there. He grabs the knife and kills the guy that's beating the Jesus out of him. And then for his troubles, oh, by the way, the mother of the child is also trying to carve on this poor Puerto Rican American. And the final irony is he gets thrown into jail for 2 months because he killed the guy. And they said, "Well, you could have escaped." And the old guy is saying, "Where? I'm boxed in. There's only a little door, and this big, tall black guy is standing there, and he wants to beat the hell out of me." Okay? Finally, it dawned on the people in New York just how silly and stupid this was. This is also one of the strongest anti-gun states in the country. It's kind of like California where I live. They're all crazy. The lady, in California, believe it or not, and by the Supreme Court of the United States, the police are not required to get to you. So you can be killed, and your heirs can't do anything about it because they have qualified immunity. So the police aren't, it says protect and serve on the side of the deal. That's called advertising. Doesn't mean a damn thing. And we've had a lot. My friend Butch, I live out in Trona, California. It's 42 miles from Death Valley. And he hears a racket behind his house, and there's two guys beating the hell out of another guy. And Butch goes over to him and asks him to stop. And they tell Butch, well, you better get back in your house, old man, or you'll be getting some of this too. Now, Butch is the kind of a guy who served in the military. He doesn't take threats lightly. He goes back into his house, doesn't say a word, comes back out, fires. He has an AR-15, charges the weapon, fires one. He's got their attention now. Now, he said, is everybody on the same page? Are you going to let this young man go? He knows his lesson. Hey, I don't think he's going to do it again. Now, I would say that you should all get the hell out. And that's what happened. He didn't have to shoot anybody, but he made his point. That's what firearms are for in America. There was another lady in Texas. She had a 1.5 or 2-year-old daughter. Her husband had died of cancer, and this scum brought his friend along, and they were going to rape the woman, kill the baby, and she called 911. And because she lived out in the country, nobody could be there. And she asked them, can I shoot them? And the lady on the phone said, sure, shoot them. You're defending your home. And that's what she did. She killed the first guy, and the other guy she wounded. They finally caught up with him. Now, why do you need guns? Same reason. I also wanted to talk to you about the situation. They say that America is a violent country. It is violent. But for the amount of firearms that we have in our country, we're one of the safest countries in the world. Switzerland is also the second. The Swiss, believe it or not, are second in the amount of arms for armed citizens. They also have grenades in their houses. They're required to because they have to. It's a volunteer army. They have to join the army when they turn 18. So you have 3 or 4 generations of Swiss who own firearms. Matter of fact, the Swiss start teaching their kids how to shoot when they're 7. They have a lot of gun clubs in there. They had only one mass shooting in their country. I think it's because they're homogenous, and that they have a good civil court system, and they get justice. Now, in my country, we don't get justice. We get in the courts like Northrop Southern, the train company. They knew their trains were dangerous. They overloaded them. They didn't have enough manpower. They didn't have an up-to-date sales system. And now the people of East Palestine are out of their homes. Nobody seems to care. And that's wrong. Because just because you have money, you shouldn't be able to do that. But I always thought the same thing about Purdue Pharmaceuticals. I listened to Katie Porter tell us we're going to get justice. And basically, she's running for Senate. I don't think we should vote for her because she sounded like a very good candidate when she started off. But then you realize that all she is another kabuki actor. Adam Schiff is the same way. My state seems to pride itself on producing stupid politicians. We have, we had a failure of our levees. Well, Californians know that the levee system has been bad for over 20 years and they haven't done anything about it. This is a problem of communications. Politicians who run on the platform like Katie Porter, well, I'm going to ban all assault weapons. Number one, there's no such thing as an assault weapon. It's basically a semi-automatic weapon. You have semi-automatic shotguns, you have semi-automatic rifles, you have semi-automatic pistols. Pull the trigger once, it fires once. Unless you modify it by doing some crazy stuff like a bump stock or something else. And how many killings with bump stocks have there been? Only in Nevada, only in Las Vegas. And we still don't know why the guy did it. There was nothing medically wrong with him. There was nothing, well, you could say that he might be cuckoo, but he didn't give the impression of being cuckoo. He was basically, something got into this guy's head and he decided to take it out. And you can't do anything about that. In Santa Monica, they had a guy buy an automobile from a dealership. They ran his credit. It was good. He didn't have to pay any money down. They ran his driver's license. Didn't have any major deals on it. He had insurance. Everything was fine except for one small deal. He bought a car that fit exactly between the posts of the Santa Monica Pier. And then he proceeded to drive onto the pier and start killing people. Could you have prevented that? No. This wasn't some old guy. They had another old guy who got lost. He had Alzheimer's. His brain misfunctioned. And he killed people because he thought the gas was the brake and the brake was the gas. Now, we have another guy up in Santa Barbara State University. He was an Oriental. He had a lot of money. And yet he killed people. He used his car. He killed them with a knife. You cannot correct for crazy. You know, one of the founding fathers of my country was a guy named Benjamin Franklin. And he made the comment, if you give up a little freedom for more safety, you will find that you have neither. And it clearly states that in the Bill of Rights. The second, we the people, is used in the First Amendment, we the people. Well, I hope you get an idea of why I think that gun control doesn't make any sense. And we're spending a lot of money when we should be putting it into education, improving the neighborhoods that they have all these shootings, and try to rectify this. I hope that this finds everyone here today in good health, and thank you very much.